Shalom, shalom. Once again, family, we about to get it in. So let me say this. As always, I like to give all honor and praise to the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Holy One of Israel, who is Jesus. I represent the Walls of Jericho, biblical and historical studies, and Hebrews in the Hood entertainment. So of course, we always have music music for y'all, and that's what we're gonna do. Continue with it. So come on in, family, enjoy this music, and then we'll get into the lesson. There we go. Yeah. People gotta get their element on this one, you know what I'm saying? Gotta feel like that real chief priest out here in these streets. You know what I'm saying? Get it all for the lost sheep. Let's go!
It's like I'm making deals with a hazardous, glamorous, a government official with a interest. They will dismantle us, they'll know how to channel us. Expansion flow and scandal us. They crossing over parameters. Whoever said that this work wasn't gonna be this hazardous? Well, it's written. Don't be mad at us, they in demand for us. Nations abandon us. Choices unanimous. Loud is my voices, explosions unanimous. No Romans or Vatican, these Greeks and these Persians been on our ass for a long time, like down the opposite version. So get in line. Paganism and scripture, they merging, won't win alive. Only the ones that seeking when they searching, don't get inside. Yes, we beseech him for the kingdom's sake. How much of this are we to take? My people out here need a break. Cause niggas getting shot in them corners now. So turn around, it's time to look to the corner now. I follow all laws just to get me higher. That sacrificial flow, offerings to give the sire. Cause I don't wanna go into that fire. I'm feeling like a chief priest, so call me Nehemiah. I'm feeling like a chief priest, so call me Nehemiah. I'm feeling like a chief priest, so call me Nehemiah. I'm feeling like a chief priest, so call me Nehemiah. I'm feeling like a chief priest, so call me Nehemiah.
Diego Peter Cole, we angrily provoked. We been slain, locked in a cage, ain't nothing changed, we're so. They say that we're coke. Nigga, slavery's a code. We came on a boat with chains on our wrists, chains on our throats. Took us to the field, work us like a pro, controlling us like we on a PS4. Told us to obey, and if we don't, we won't see another day, see another meal, live to see the street. Most young brews don't live to see that age 23. Say the wrong thing, the world's gonna see you hanging from a tree. Better humble yourself. We're at the bottom of our wealth. With this pandemic, we're at the bottom of our health. We need to stick together, keep all the laws. Hebrews don't really care about the law. They just trying to get back.
Come on in, y'all.
Switch sides. They don't never pay tithes. Israel really cause they own the mind. They maliciously hurt us mentally. We living in a world of enemies. And no femininity or no trinity. It's only two in this industry. The Father and the Son is one entity. I hope you hear it. He about to go on the chemistry and get the killing the individuals who offended me. I'm speaking spiritual. I don't want to end up dead or in the penitentiary. Catching cases doing them intentionally.
I follow all laws just to get me higher. That sacrificial flow, offerings to give the sire. Cause I don't wanna go into that fire. I'm feeling like a chief priest, so call me Nehemiah. I'm feeling like a chief priest, so call me Nehemiah. I'm feeling like a chief priest, so call me Nehemiah. I'm feeling like a chief priest, so call me Nehemiah. I'm feeling like a chief priest, so call me Nehemiah.
We're gonna begin, family. Oh, I stopped it too soon. That's okay. So let me pull this up real quick. Okay. Shalom, shalom. Once again, I am Cassius Israel, aka Shazak Ben Yehuda. As I've said, I represent the Walls of Jericho Biblical and Historical Studies. And today's lesson, we are going to tap into this Sabbath day, brothers and sisters. Like I said, we're not going to tap into what are the do's and don'ts of the Sabbath day today. That'll be another lesson. What we're going to tap in is what happened to the Sabbath day, right? So that's why this title will be this lesson will be titled, "They have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths and changed it." They have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths and changed it. Now, this is a crazy thing, brothers and sisters, because we always talk about proof and proving all things, right? Because people have this religious mindset. They have a religious mindset, right? And what that means is that everything is based on faith and belief, nothing tangible, right? So, which means that I can believe in whatever I want to, right? But the fact that the Sabbath day has changed, brothers and sisters, shalom, shalom to everybody. The fact that the Sabbath day has changed, brothers and sisters, and when shows you that the God of Israel exists. If the people or our oppressors, they always talking about the white man then wrote this book and this, that, and the other. What we're going to show is that the white man, quote unquote, which is the Romans, they are the ones that changed the Sabbath day. So they had to have changed it from something prior that was there before, right? And so a people had to exist for them to change their customs that the God of Israel gave them, brothers and sisters, right? So that's what we're gonna get into. We got Bible, we got some history, and we got some quotes from cardinals from the Catholic Church, brothers and sisters. So that's what we're gonna get into today. So we're going to start this at Exodus, the 20th chapter. We're gonna go to the 10 Commandments real quick. Of course, we're not gonna read them all. We're gonna deal with this Sabbath day. Exodus, the 20th chapter. Like I said, brothers and sisters, you can prove the God of Israel exists just by showing what happened to the Sabbath day, right? Because the Sabbath day was a sign between him and his people. If you are not keeping the Sabbath day, brothers and sisters, then you are not his people. That's simple, right? That's simple math. Exodus, the 20th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1. Exodus, the 20th chapter, and we are going to start at verse 1. 20 and verse 1. And verse 1 reads, "And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." Now, we're going to get detailed today, right? Because like I said, the Sabbath day usually is one of the most simplest things to explain to somebody, right? You don't go to, and what we're dealing with is Sunday versus Saturday, right? You don't want to go to worship and have a holy convocation and do all these things on a Sunday. You want to have it on a Saturday, right? But we're going to even see that the Sunday worship stretches back to Egypt, brothers and sisters. So he said that he brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, meaning that if you're still going to church to worship on the Sunday, right, and you're involved and you're embracing that doctrine that comes out of those churches, right? Because that's what we're really dealing with, right? The doctrine. Because if you were dealing with the right doctrine and you were going to church on the Sabbath day and you went to church on a Sunday, that wouldn't be a problem, right? Because you're still fulfilling God's commandments. You just going to church on Sunday. But they have changed the Sabbath from the Saturday, the seventh day, to Sunday, the first day, right? That's stretching back to Egypt, brothers and sisters, right? So verse 3 says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." And whether you want to believe it or not, brothers and sisters, you are worshiping another God when you're in these churches, and we're going to show exactly why. So let's get down to the gist of it, right? Let's skip down to verse 8. Verse 8, the first word, brothers and sisters, remember the Sabbath day. Remember, right? So people have forgotten the Sabbath day when the commandment says to remember the Sabbath day. There's a reason for that. If you think about a God being all-knowing and all-powerful, he could see the end from the beginning, right? So when he gave you this commandment, he knew people were going to forget about it. So that's why he said, remember the Sabbath and to keep it holy, right? Verse 9, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. in it thou shalt not do any work. So 6 days thou shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but on the 7th day, the 7th, brothers and sisters, not the first day, the 7th day, right? It says, in it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates, right? So you can work for 6 days, but you got to stop working on the Sabbath, on the 7th day. And of course, we see that work is obviously a do and a don't on the Sabbath day, brothers and sisters. But like I said, we're not going to get into that today. Verse 11, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it, right? So people will get into this big thing about, well, how do you know that Saturday is the real Sabbath and this, that, and the third? Brothers and sisters, regardless of any of that, what we are dealing with is we were born in America, right? Let's not get into the complicated stuff. Let's keep it simple. We were born in America. We know that from Sunday to Saturday is 7 days. We have a 7-day calendar, right? So you know doggone well, regardless if you believe that Saturday is the 7th day or not, right? Or Saturday is the Sabbath day or not, because they get into the god Saturn and all this other stuff, right? We're not dealing with that, right? You know that Sunday is not the day at all. So there should be no switch. It should be a discussion on whether Saturday is the real Sabbath day. That's because people would be keeping Saturday as the Sabbath day, but people are not doing that, right? And this was an agenda that was executed out, brothers and sisters, to keep you away from the God of Israel, right? It was done like this on purpose, right? So let us keep going. Now let's go to Exodus, the 31st chapter. Right, so we know we got in the 10 commandments, brothers and sisters, that the 7th day is the Sabbath day, right? So the 7th day in this time frame, what we're in now, is Saturday and not Sunday, right? Let's go to Exodus, the 31st chapter. Exodus, the 31st chapter, and we're going to start at verse 13. Excuse me. Exodus, the 31st chapter, and we're going to start at verse 12. I'm sorry, verse 12. Exodus, the 31st chapter, and we're going to start at verse 12. Exodus 31 and verse 12. And verse 12 reads, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you. So, brothers and sisters, if you're not keeping the 7th day, you don't know that the Lord sanctified you. That you see how simple that is? He said that if you keep my Sabbath, it is a sign between me and you, that you shall know that I am the Lord that sanctify you. So you don't, brothers and sisters, if you never have been going to worship and having a holy convocation on the 7th day, you don't know the Lord, brothers and sisters, and you definitely don't know that he sanctified you, right? That is a very important thing to understand, right? He made you a set-apart people, right? Verse 14, ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that... All right, once again, it happens every time I do a lesson, brothers and sisters. I'm on live, y'all. So if you're trying to call me, I will definitely call you back, right? So once again, he said, where am I? Oh, everyone that defileth it, we're in the middle of verse 14. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Now, all the people, brothers and sisters, for people to say that the law is done away with anyway, for all of the people who have suffered death in the land of Israel for not keeping the Sabbath day, why are those people getting put to death? But the people after Christ died, they don't get put to death for the same thing, brothers and sisters, right? That don't make no sense, right? The people in the Old Testament, all the way up to Christ, pretty much all the way up to 70 AD, right? Because we're still in the land. Because you obviously see after Christ, the Sabbath was being kept. So after 70 AD, you definitely, after 70 AD, you definitely see people trying to say that the Sabbath day was not kept if we're in the land. But they go all the way to Christ dying, brothers and sisters, right? And that's not even true, right? It was way past 70 AD, hundreds of years before they actually changed the Sabbath day, brothers and sisters, right? But my thing is, why would God put people to death all those years, and then after Christ dies, nobody else gets put to death? That's not fair to the people that died, right? So you know the law is not done away with just from that, right? Let us continue. Verse 16. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant, brothers and sisters. Perpetual means never ending. It does not end. So this is all the way until the 8th day, of course. The Sabbath day is supposed to be kept, brothers and sisters, no matter what. Verse 17. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed, right? So we got to keep the Sabbath day in all our generations, in all our dwellings, brothers and sisters. That's what we got to do, right? And shalom to all of you who have come in. Shalom to you. Now, let us keep going, and we're going to keep seeing this in the law, brothers and sisters, but we're going to see it also in the testimony, right? Let's go to Exodus, the 35th chapter. Exodus, the 35th chapter. Exodus, the 35th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1. Exodus, the 35th chapter, and we are going to start at verse 1. Exodus 35 and verse 1. And verse 1 reads, And Moses gathered all the congregation of the children of Israel together, and said unto them, These are the words which the Lord hath commanded, that ye should do them. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day there shall be to you an holy day, a Sabbath of rest to the Lord. Whosoever doeth work therein shall be put to death. Y'all notice something, brothers and sisters? I ain't even got out the book of Exodus yet. And he keeps talking about the Sabbath day. I'm still in the book of Exodus, brothers and sisters, right? And he's still talking about the Sabbath day, right? Now, and this is another thing that kills me, right? People don't realize is that the holy days and feast days are Sabbath days, brothers and sisters. Shalom, shalom to you. They're Sabbath days. So we got to keep them as well. They're all signs that we are dealing with the Most High God of Israel, brothers and sisters. They're all signs that we're dealing with him, right? So let's go to Leviticus 23rd chapter. Leviticus the 23rd chapter. Leviticus the 23rd chapter, and we are going to start at verse 23. Verse 1, I'm sorry. Leviticus 23 and verse 1. Leviticus the 23rd chapter, and we are going to start at verse 1. Leviticus 23 and verse 1. Leviticus 23 and 1. And verse 1 reads, And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, Concerning the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feast. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is a Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. These are the feast of the Lord, brothers and sisters, just like it's not the Sabbath of the Jews, right? And we're going to get into the fact that I remember when I was on Brother Oz's show, the Wake Up Show, I did a lesson called A Warning to the Romans Who Are Gentiles. And I showed y'all the Nicene Creed. I wanted to bring that, or the Constantine Creed. I wanted to bring that up because it's not in his lesson. Should have been, but it's not. So since it's not, I'm going to bring it up. He made it seem like this was the Jews' feast, right? And it's not the Jews' feast, brothers and sisters. It is the Lord's feast, brothers and sisters, and they are Sabbaths, right? So we're going to look at one of them, and we're going to show that all of them come under the same banner, brothers and sisters, right? So let us skip down to verse 26, right? And it's funny because this day is upon us, right? We got the blowing of the memorial, the trumpets, right, on the 7th, starting on the night of the 17th. And then we got the Day of Atonement, which is what we're going to get into on the 27th, right? So let us read about this. Verse 26. Verse 26 reads, And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Also on the 10th day of the 7th month there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. And ye shall do no work in the same day, for it is the day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Lord your God. For whatsoever so it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people, right? Verse 30, And whatsoever so it be that doeth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. Ye shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. So no matter where you are, brothers and sisters, no matter what country you are, no matter what generation you're in, you have to keep the Day of Atonement, right? Let's see what it is. Verse 32. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even. From even unto even shall ye celebrate your Sabbath, brothers and sisters, right? So we see that the Day of Atonement, right, just an example, is a Sabbath, just like the rest of them are Sabbaths. They are called high Sabbaths. You got to keep them as well as signs, brothers and sisters, right? These are the feast of the Lord, or the day of the Lord, the Sabbath days, brothers and sisters, right? So let us continue. Now let's get into what happened to the Sabbath day, right? Let's go to Ezekiel, the 22nd chapter. Ezekiel, the 22nd chapter. Ezekiel, the 22nd chapter, and we're going to start at verse 23. Ezekiel, the 22nd chapter, and we're going to start at verse 23. Ezekiel 22 and verse 23. 22 and 23. And verse 23 reads, And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto her, Thou art the land that is not cleansed, nor rained upon in the day of indignation. There is a conspiracy of her prophets in the midst thereof, like a roaring lion ravening the prey. They have devoured souls. They have taken the treasure of precious things. They have made her many widows in the midst thereof, right? So we're going to be dealing with the origin of why we don't remember the Sabbath day or think it's important, is going back to the priests and the prophets, which is part of the nation of Israel, brothers and sisters, right? Now let's get into what happened. Verse 26. Her priests have violated my law and have profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane, neither have they showed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profane among them. So the priests and the prophets hid their eyes from the Sabbath, brothers and sisters. So if the people that was given the law hid their eyes from the Sabbath, how is the rest of the world going to remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, brothers and sisters? That was the job of the priest, right? All the high Sabbaths, the weekly Sabbaths, brothers and sisters, that was a job for the priest to keep everything on point. Then we're going to see who's the one that flipped everything around, right? So it said her priests have violated my law. They have not made a difference between the holy and profane, the clean and unclean. That's why we out here eating all type of stuff. That's just a side note, right? But for the focus here is they hid their eyes from the Sabbaths of the Lord, right? And he said Sabbaths with a plural, Sabbaths. So we know we're also talking about the holy days and feast days, brothers and sisters, right? So let us continue. Now we're going to Ezekiel, the 20th chapter. Ezekiel, the 20th chapter. Ezekiel, the 20th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 19. Ezekiel, the 20th chapter, and we are going to start at verse 19. Ezekiel 20 and verse 19. 20 and 19. And verse 19 reads, I am the Lord your God. Walk in my statutes and keep my judgments and do them. And hallow my Sabbaths, right? So, of course, this is really important to the Lord, brothers and sisters. Like I said, we would have stayed, if we would have just kept the Lord's Sabbaths, we would have been able to stay in the land of Israel, right? But we couldn't keep them. We hid our eyes from the Sabbath days, right? So he said, and hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that ye may know that I am the Lord your God, right? So without the Sabbath day, brothers and sisters, without the sign, brothers and sisters, how you going to know that he is the Lord, right? That's the point. Now, like I told y'all, the fact that the Sabbath day is no longer remembered is going to prove the God of Israel exists. Why? Because if the people that changed it, they were against this, brothers and sisters. So if this was not relevant, why would they be so against it and make a culture out of being against it? Right? Once again, brothers and sisters, I will call you back, right? So once again, they made a culture, brothers and sisters, out of going against this. They made decrees about going against this and made up their own Christianity, brothers and sisters, right? A Christianity that wasn't even formed except 100 years after Christ died. Hundreds of years after Christ died, right? And hundreds of years after the apostles died, brothers and sisters. So we know we're not dealing with the same thing once we get to Roman Constantine and the Nicene Council. That's what I'm pointing at. So let us continue. Verse 21. Notwithstanding the children rebelled against me, they walked not in my statutes, neither kept my judgments to do them, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. So you must live in the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God, brothers and sisters. And who was supposed to be an example of that was the nation of Israel, right? Let's continue. They polluted my Sabbaths. Then said I would pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the wilderness, right? So he's going to do this back then, but he's going to change when Christ died, right? No, we know that he doesn't change. He doesn't change, brothers and sisters, right? He's the same today, yesterday, and in the future, right? Let's continue. Verse 22, nevertheless, I withdrew my hand in wrath for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted in the sight of the heathen, in whose sight I brought them forth, right? So for his own glory, brothers and sisters, he didn't destroy us, right? Because he was trying to prove a point, right? That's the only reason. For his name's sake, that's why we're still here, brothers and sisters, right? And it's promised to our father Abraham. Verse 23, I lifted up my hand unto them also in the wilderness, that I would scatter them among the heathen and disperse them through the countries, right? So we are telling people that we are the nation of Israel and that we are scattered throughout all the countries, brothers and sisters, all the Afros that are scattered all over the world, brothers and sisters. Why is that? One of the reasons is because you didn't keep the primary reason is because you didn't keep the Sabbath day. You hid your eyes from the Sabbath day. But of course, all the other laws mattered as well. Verse 23. Oh, no. Verse 20, in the middle of verse 23. And disperse them through and disperse them through the countries, because they had not executed my judgments, but had despised my statutes and had polluted my Sabbaths. He said it again, right? And their eyes were after their fathers' idols. Wherefore I gave them also statutes that were not good. Wait a minute. Y'all hear that? It said the Lord God gave them statutes that were not good and judgments whereby they should not live, brothers and sisters. Now, he's not literally saying I'm doing this and it's okay, right? He's giving you over to your own desires. You wanted to go and do what the nation, you wanted to go and do what the heathen were doing anyway. So I'm going to give you over to that, brothers and sisters. And I'm going to give you statutes that are not good and judgments that you should not live in, right? That's what he said. Let's skip down to verse 33. This is what he also said concerning that, right? Verse 33. As I live, saith the Lord God, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out, will I rule over you, right? So he's doing all this. He's giving you these statutes that you're not supposed to live in. He's giving you statutes that are not good and judgments that you're not supposed to live in because you wanted to do this anyway, brothers and sisters. So he is going to stretch out his hand, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm, he said, and with fury poured out, I'm going to rule over you. Then I'm going to take you from the nations and bring you back once you get back on business, brothers and sisters. But he going to rule over you, and you going to be in this situation until he calls you back to the land, brothers and sisters. That's scary, right? And this is why I also tell my brothers and sisters that you must be patient because of things like this, brothers and sisters. The Lord God gave us over to these things because of our desires, right? So our ancestors that knew about this, that did this, they taught all their descendants all the folly, brothers and sisters, right? And so now there was a famine in the land for the word of God. Now we're retaining it, and now we got to consciously get ourselves out of it, of course, with the grace of God. But we got to choose to come out of it, and we were accustomed to the worldly traditions that we come up under, brothers and sisters. So that's a psychological thing that you have to be patient with people, right? You know, I know we can all get a little sarcastic at things because people do be saying some foolish stuff. I'm not even going to lie about that. But we got to remember, we got to be patient, brothers and sisters. We must be patient. We must be fishers of these men. And as I put up a post, yesterday, saying that these same people going to come and wake up in this great tribulation, brothers and sisters. There's going to be a lot of people that wake up in the tribulation, brothers and sisters. And those same people that wake up in that tribulation, they not trying to hear nothing right now. Just right now. They don't want to hear it. But they will eventually hear it, brothers and sisters. So just keep planting the seeds because we stuck in this thing because the Most High got us in this thing. Right? So let's move. Let's continue. Now we are going to Matthew, the 5th chapter. So now let's get into what Christ said. Matthew, the 5th chapter. Matthew, the 5th chapter, and we are going to start at verse 14. Matthew, the 5th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 14. And it's going to be land backing off of what I just said about us being patient and things like that, brothers and sisters, because we are the light of the world, right? We are the light of the world. The people, the children of Israel, the nation of Israel, we are the light of the world, right? And we are the salt of the earth, which is what we're going to get into. Matthew 5, and we're gonna start at verse 13. I'm sorry, Matthew 5, and we're gonna start at verse 13. Matthew the 5th chapter and verse 13. 5 and verse 13. And verse 13 reads, talking to the nation of Israel, ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its Savior, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under the foot of men. So don't you lose your flavor, brothers and sisters, because you know the nation of Israel got that flavor, right? But salt also is a preservative, so we're supposed to preserve the other people, ourselves and the other people, and keep them in the way of the tree of life, right? That's what we're supposed to do, brothers and sisters. What else are we? Verse 14, ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. You are the light of the world, brothers and sisters. So now you got to go and teach people, hey, come up out of these Sunday churches and come back to the Sabbath day of worship, right? Because you are the light of the world, right? Verse 16. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass away, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled, brothers and sisters. One jot or one tittle shall not pass from the law. That means the Sabbath day, brothers and sisters. It's not going to pass until all is fulfilled, and all ain't going to be fulfilled until we get to the Father's kingdom, which is the 8th day. So as long as you got flesh and blood bodies, brothers and sisters, you got to keep the Sabbath day. If you ain't changed over into your immortal body, and all of us are immortal, you got to keep the Sabbath day, brothers and sisters, right? Let's continue. Verse 19. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven, right? You either going to be in the right side of the kingdom or you're going to be in the lake of fire. If you do and teach the commandments, you're going to be on the right side of the kingdom. If you go against the commandments and teach people to go against the commandments, you're going to be in the lake of fire, brothers and sisters. That's what he's saying. Now, let's go and see him doing exactly what he said he was going to do to fulfill the law, right? He didn't fulfill the law so that we wouldn't have to keep it, right? And I don't know why people think that when he said, I have not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. People was just like, you know what? We ain't got to do it no way, right? Destroy and fulfill, two different words, brothers and sisters, but people just still was like, man, we ain't got to do the law no way, right? So let's go see Christ doing the law. Luke, the 4th chapter. We're going to see what he was doing. Luke, the 4th chapter, and we are going to start at verse 14. Luke, the 4th chapter, and we are going to start at verse 14. Luke 4 and verse 14. 4 and 14. And verse 14 reads, and Jesus returned in the power of the Spirit into Galilee, and there went out a fame of him throughout all the region round about. So here's another thing. If Jesus was coming to do away with the law, brothers and sisters, it says that there was a fame of him that went round about. Why nobody was testifying that this man was coming to say, look, you ain't got to do these laws, statutes, commandments no more after I die. Why is this not in here, brothers and sisters? It said it was a fame of him, so he should have been famous for teaching that the law was done away with, but he wasn't, right? He wasn't teaching that, and this makes it even worse. Verse 15, and he taught in their synagogues, being glorified of all. Once again, he didn't teach in the synagogues to not keep the law, brothers and sisters, right? Verse 16, and he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. Now, that would have been some funny stuff, brothers and sisters. This man coming in the synagogues on the Sabbath day, telling them to do away with the Sabbath day, right? Does that make sense? He's famous for going in the synagogues on the Sabbath day as his custom was. He going to go against his custom and now say that the law, or you don't have to keep the Sabbath no more. But that was his custom, right? He was keeping that. So why wasn't he preaching that throughout his life when he started realizing about the law and understanding it? Why wasn't he preaching that in his life, brothers and sisters, right? Because it wasn't happening, right? So he kept the Sabbath day. The people, the Lord told them that the Sabbath day would be a sign between me and you. So they were keeping the Sabbath day before Christ. Now let's go see what they were doing after Christ, right? And we're going to work our way up to that. Now let's go to Romans, the 3rd chapter. Romans, the 3rd chapter. Romans, the 3rd chapter, and we are going to start at verse 1. Romans, the 3rd chapter, and we are going to start at verse 1. Romans 3 and verse 1. Excuse me. Romans 3 and verse 1. And verse 1 reads, what advantage then hath the Jew? What advantage then hath the Jew? Or what profit is there of circumcision? Much every way, chiefly because unto them were committed the oracles of God. So now, nobody remembers who the children of Israel are, brothers and sisters, not even the children of Israel. We're starting to figure out now. That's why you see the law, statutes, commandments being preached again, right? But because the children of Israel were committed the oracles of God, they're the ones that hid their eyes from the Sabbath originally, right? So of course the rest of the world is not going to recognize this or remember the Sabbath. It wasn't being preached, brothers and sisters, right? Verse 3. For what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of God without effect? God forbid. Yea, let God be true, but every man a liar, as it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings and mightest overcome when thou art judged. And we're definitely going to be justified in what we're saying with this Sabbath day, brothers and sisters, right? So, let God be true and every man a liar. Did we make void the law because we have faith in Christ, brothers and sisters? Let's go see that. Skip down to verse 31. Verse 31. Do we then make void the law through faith? God forbid. Yea, we establish the law. So this is Paul saying we established the law. Christ said that he came to fulfill the law and the prophets. So them two different things now, right? No, they're the same thing, brothers and sisters. Christ, another word for fulfill is to establish. They're synonymous words, brothers and sisters. So Christ came to establish the law and the prophets, just like Paul said that we came to establish the law, brothers and sisters, right? Now, for some strange reason, the strangers think they don't have to keep this, right? Because now the Gentiles, you got doctrines out there that the Gentiles, and in their point of view, the Gentiles is everybody that's not an Israelite, right? Which is not true. So the Gentiles don't have to keep the Jews' law, right? Let's go see that. Let's go to Numbers, the 15th chapter. Let's see if the strangers didn't have to keep the law. right? And they go to the extent of saying, well, I'm not part of the people of Israel and this, that, and the third. Well, if you're not part of the Commonwealth of Israel, you're not part of this at all, brothers and sisters. You just out here doing vain worship, right? So let's go see if the strangers were kept out of having to do the law. Numbers 15, and we are going to start at verse 15. Numbers 15, and we are going to start at verse 15. Numbers 15 and verse 15. 15 and 15. And verse 15 reads, one ordinance shall be for you of the congregation, and also for the stranger that sojourneth with you, an ordinance forever in your generations, as ye are, so shall the stranger be before the Lord. So yes, everybody got to keep the law, brothers and sisters. Let's keep going. Verse 16, one law and one manner shall be for you and for the stranger that sojourn with you, brothers and sisters. And that does not just mean geographically sojourning with you. People will get into that, right? Well, I ain't living with no Israelites, so I ain't got to keep no laws, statutes, and commandments, right? If you are sojourning, meaning spiritually, you're spiritually a part of the commonwealth, brothers and sisters, you got to keep the law, right? You got to keep the law, whether you're a foreigner or whether you're one that is born in the land of Israel, right? Whether you're indigenous or whether you're a foreigner, you got to keep the law, statutes, commandments if you're worshiping the God of Israel in spirit and in truth, brothers and sisters, right? So now, to all my, what you call them, Paulinians or Paulites, right? Let's go see what Paul said. Let's go to Acts, the 24th chapter, right? Because people love going to Paul, talking about the laws done away with, especially when it comes to the Sabbath. I mean, the Sabbath, brothers and sisters, is, like I said, it's the simplest thing to deal with because the only thing you're doing is changing from the first day to the seventh day. You don't have to really do nothing special until you get in it and hear about what you can and cannot do on that day. But you don't at first you don't have to do nothing but change the day that you go to church on, right? And that's very simple. But people will go to Paul and try their best to show that Paul was against the law, statutes, and commandments, that he was against keeping the Sabbath day, right? So let's go see that. Let's see what Paul said. We're going to Acts 24 and verse 14.